Did you know that as of June 24th, there are over 2.4 million podcasts worldwide? And did you know that there are several podcasts here in St. Kitts and Nevis? Well, if you didn't know, allow us to introduce you to Pelican Podcasts. This is an organization spearheaded by creative director Gavin Belle. And Gavin is here to tell us more about his firsthand experience creating podcast content. Hi, Gavin. Welcome to GMSKN.
Hi, thank you for having me.
All right, our pleasure indeed. So, podcasting. What made you get into it?
I've got a background in media, and I've found myself in a position where I felt like there was a need, there was a space, an opening, and decided, all right, let's try my hand at making some interesting content.
Okay, we're going to talk about that content in a bit.
Interesting content indeed. So how long have the podcast, the Pelican podcast?
We've been going at it for some time now. Technically, unofficially, it's been going on since about 2020. Since 2020, actually. Just after the pandemic started. Okay. And the initial podcast that we got running was Off the Bench, which was a production that was actually happening before I joined it. It fell off for a while, and I reached out to the hosts and talked to them about potentially getting it back on stream. And it was a bit challenging because we were, I think at the time only two of us were actually on island. And actually nobody was on island. We did it all remotely. Okay. And then we actually figured out how to make it all work and put it together. And it became something we just enjoyed doing and kept doing it.
All right, you say Off the Bench, I remember Jabari.
Yes, Jabari's a host of Off the Bench, yes.
Right, he was also here, so he preceded you here on the show as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah, great. All right, so let's talk about even getting people excited about the resurgence of Off the Bench. What was that like?
It was actually pretty interesting. So I got into Off the Bench because they were my friends, and I was listening to them while I was in college and that kind of stuff, while they were in college doing it. And it was content that it just reminded me of, the guys at the court. We just finished playing and we started bantering about stuff, and a couple of laughs, some interesting insight on things, and then it just reminded me of home. And I realized, well, okay, if I'm here and there are lots of people like me who can't go down to the courts and have that experience anymore, let's bring that back to the persons who might want that. So yes, we operate in St. Kitts, I'm in here, but we do have most of our content facing outwards to people who are outside of the Federation who might want a taste of home.
All right,
So what was the strategy that you established to excite your audience?
Well, I tend to look for and try and find people who are passionate about something. Okay. So we approach, different people in the community who might have an interesting view on something, who may have an interesting story to tell, and you talk to them about, potentially bringing that to an audience. Hey, if you've got a story to share, you should be able to share it. And podcasting is an avenue of media where the barrier to entry is pretty low. A microphone, a computer to record, some place to post it, you pretty much got your own show. Okay. But beyond that, it's about, getting people to listen and getting people to watch now, because you have video podcasts, is finding that one thing that really speaks to someone. If you look at a lot of the major podcasts around the world, and your statistic is very correct, podcasting is one of the largest growing industries and fastest growing industries, subdivisions in media. So if you look at the biggest podcasts, the Joe Rogans, the crime podcasts that are all out, they all have something that speaks to their audience. They all have something that hooks them in and brings them in and keeps them. One of the things we've realized too is that podcasting, people who listen to podcasts are extremely loyal. If you can get someone to click on your show, if you can get someone to listen to maybe the first 4 or 5 minutes, that person's probably going to be with you for the life of your content creation. So that's my elevator pitch, as it were, to someone who I'm trying to work with.
Absolutely right. And it's very good because as you mentioned those names, I remember going through streams when I was away from St. Kitts, not necessarily listening to Kittian content, but I found a podcast or two and I'm like, okay, I love this. I love the sound. I'm hooked. Right. And I'm just clicking and clicking. So that's the kind of experience you want to offer.
Right, exactly. So what happened to me was I would take long trips when I was at school, and sometimes I'm in the car for 3-4 hours, and whether I have the good radio signal or not, whatever, but I could always put on a podcast. And there were 2 or 3 that I would listen to every weekend. So,
Just like,
and I found the same thing that you were just pointing out, like, hey, I wasn't listening to Petition content because it just wasn't there. So there's a space, see a need, fill a need.
nice. So now you can listen to your podcast away from home.
Yes.
So tell us, what goes into creating a podcast?
It can be difficult. It can be time consuming, but to make a really good one. But basically, it's just a point of view. If you're passionate about something, you sit down, we game out what the episodes might be, how many episodes we're trying to do, what's the best time to release, what type of format we're going to do, whether it's going to be interview style or it's going to be narrative driven. There's some interesting content we're going to have coming out soon that's going to be narrative driven, so I'm really looking forward to that. And after that, it's setting up recording times, putting in the editing work, finding out what's the best imagery to go along with that kind of stuff, and a little bit of marketing too, and you get down the road from there.
All right, so let's talk about the difference between interview style and narrative style. Which one do you find more difficult?
Narrative style, because you definitely have to know how to write. You have to know how to put it all together. Okay. You've got to do the research. The research is what pulls people in and brings people in and keeps them in. So if they're learning, if they're adding something to their life, to their day, more than likely they'll come back to learn something else further down the road. That's not to say interview style isn't fun. I mean, off the bench, we've had some pretty crazy interviews and some interesting times and interesting things. And the ability to have unscripted moments is something that you look forward to. But for me personally, with my background, I think in narrative style is pretty cool.
All right, good luck to you. I know what my preference is. I just think it's easier, and that's the thing. I think it's easier, but as you rightly said, again, you do the research. It's good podcasting.
So let's talk about the philosophy of Pelican podcast.
I touched on it a little earlier. It's literally just putting out content for Kittitions, people in the region, and divisions, people in the region who want that content. Because I found myself in a place where I would listen to stuff and learn stuff, and I'd be like, man, why can't I listen to something about historical figures in across the region? Which turned into a conversation with Jabari, which now turns into a podcast that we have called Island Archives, where we go down and we profile different popular or people you should know in Caribbean culture. We've actually got a new episode that just dropped today. It's going to be out. It should be out right now already. And it starts off season 2, and we'll have some interesting names on that list.
Speaking to the name, Pelican. Significance of Pelican.
I'm from St.
What's
Kitts.
St. Kitts?
I am from St. Kitts. The company is here, and we produce content for Kittitions. The brown pelican is our national bird.
Nice.
Let's keep it moving.
Exactly.
So we understand that you also have content partners.
Yeah. So I realized that just putting out my own stuff wasn't going to be enough. I couldn't one-man band the entire industry. So I decided that I'll reach out to certain people and try and talk to them if they were interested in becoming a part of my network. So to this point, we've got a few people that we've sat down with, and they've agreed to be a part of Pelican Podcast. We talk to them about distribution and that kind of stuff. And the idea, again, is to get more eyes or ears on their content.
So what if you have other persons that may be interested? Can you look into that camera and tell them how they can become a partner?
You head over to www.pelicanpodcast.com. You head over to contact us, send us a note, and we'll get back to you and set up a meeting and figure out what we can do to help each other.
Nice.
I want to ask you, you're creating content for Kittitions and Divisions, wider Caribbean as well. What's the most appealing thing about doing that to you?
Define appealing.
Okay, define appeal as in rewarding personal appeal.
So I'll give you a personal experience. Maybe sometime last year, I was talking to a friend of mine, and I just happened to mention the name Island Archives, and I saw somebody's ear prick pop up, and they're like, "That's you?" I'm like, "Yeah." So, man, I didn't know, and I didn't know the content. I remember there was the episode with Livingston Bramble, which was our first episode, who's a local boxing champion. And just having that discussion, seeing that the content actually reaches people and it adds to their day or adds to their knowledge is more than enough.
Right, so that's just personal reward for you.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You said you were hidden for now. Do you plan to do face the cameras eventually?
Yes. We did a bit of a pilot episode for a series that I'd like to start about the music industry in St. Kitts. It's called Baseline. The first person we had on it was Zoo, who has an event coming up. Make sure you guys support. We went through, his career, his music, what he wants to do next, that kind of stuff. We hope to have some more people on. We've shot another episode, which should be coming out soon as well. Me, myself, getting in front of the camera is not something I generally like to do.
Did you find it so
I know. I know. But if I have to, I can. But generally, I much prefer putting things together and seeing the finished product. So.
Okay, good stuff.
Yeah, that's not strange at all. I feel the same way. While I'm here, I don't know Gavin. But,
Would you believe I'm an introvert?
Yeah, I would.
Awesome.
I don't believe it one bit.
Potentially, you're between two introverts.
Right.
But it's not about the introverts, it's about Pelican Podcast. Let's get back
It
to topic.
is indeed.
All right, so Pelican Podcast is a parent company, Pelican Media Group.
Pelican Media Group. So in doing podcasts, you realize, well, okay, if you're going to supply and service the media industry, let's be as, full complement as you can be. So we do provide live streaming services. We do provide digital content creation. We do provide a lots of other stuff. And you can head over to pelicanmediagroup.com and you can see what we can offer you, and maybe we can work together.
Yeah, I've been speaking about Pelican Media Group, and all I'm seeing is a group of Pelican lined up on the wall with literally in my head, and just seeing a group of Pelicans. And I'm thinking, he said a parent company, I'm thinking of Father
Big
Pelican
Pelican.
and Mom. Yeah,
That's its own podcast. You guys need to talk.
We can make it work.
Strange things you say.
Oh, I know. That's all I'm
Lord,
literally
you're killing
thinking
me.
about.
You're killing
So
me.
what's next for the podcast?
What's next? Like I said, we've got a few new ones that should be popping up. Like I said, season 2 of Island Archives. It's hard to keep them all straight. Island Archives started today. We've actually covered it's a little known, but a pretty popular figure in regional history. The first woman of African descent to become Miss Universe, Miss Jeanette. I keep messing up her last name, so forgive me
That's
if I
a lady
butcher
from
it.
Trinidad?
Yes, Commisong, I think it is, Penny. And the way we designed Island Archives is that it's not going to take a whole bunch out of your day. It's what we call a micro podcast. Okay. So if you got 3 minutes, well, let's say 5. If you got 5 minutes, you can. That's a commercial break. Okay. If you got 5 minutes, you can head over, listen to it, learn something new. In terms of what's next, we've got a few. I don't want to let it out just yet because we're still editing and coming up with names and stuff. But we've got a few more projects underway. Some will be out before the end of the year. We've got a few more slated for next year.
Good.
All right, so the burning question here for me now is, how do you monetize these things?
How do you monetize? All right, well, like I said, I'm not primarily pointing to the Kittitian market. Lots of this content, it's designed and curated for persons from the diaspora who are outside, want to get a little taste of back home, but the content itself still has, relevant and updated information to them. It's been interesting to try and do. Luckily, we've had a few local partners, one of them for Island Archives being Old Road Rum, who's come back on for season 2, and we want to thank them for that. We're also trying to do different brand deals and that kind of things with partners where I've developed outside of St. Kitts in my time in the States and that kind of stuff. So trying to get the monetization off the ground. You make something off of your views and your listens and that kind of thing, but that's been an interesting time to put all together. So
I can only imagine, Gavin.
yeah.
But you see, what I get from this conversation about podcasting you is that it's really all about genuine interest.
Yeah. So if you can, the beauty of the internet is that you can find your tribe. Everybody's got someone that they can, relate to. And if you can find those people, you've got an audience. You've got a show.
All right, finding your tribe again. How do people find you on social media and listen to Pelican Podcasts?
We are on Instagram, that's Pelican MGI, that's Pelican Media Group. We are also, Island Archives is also on Instagram. You can find us at pelicanpodcast.com or pelicanmediagroup.com.